40 others injured in Niger State tanker explosion. House of Reps seek protection for Dangote refinery strategic investments after Pengassan strike. Hoodlums raise Ekiti State ADC Secretariat, disrupt ESCO's inauguration. And on the foreign scene, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance admits long-term plan for Gaza uncertain, denies visiting Israel due to tensions. Good evening. This is news at 7 on Western Spring Television. I am Femi Ojo. No fewer than 30 people have reportedly lost their lives, while about 40 others sustained varying degrees of injuries in a tragic tanker explosion that occurred on Tuesday in Niger State. The incident happened around 11 a.m. at Osun and Badege communities along the Bida-Agay Road in Kachaluka Gamed area of the state. Eyewitnesses said the victims were scooping fuel from a falling tanker when the vehicle suddenly exploded, setting off a massive fire that engulfed several people. Many victims were said to have been burnt beyond recognition, while the injured were evacuated to nearby hospitals for treatment. Confirming the incident, the chairman of the State Tanker Drivers Association and national ex-official of the Nigeria Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NOPENG, Comrade Farouk Kaou, described the tragedy as devastating and unavoidable. According to him, the ill-fated tanker was conveying petroleum products from Lagos to the northern part of the country when it crashed. Moving on, President Bola Tinubu has nominated Dr. Bernard Doro from Plateau State as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, forwarding his name to the Senate for confirmation. Dr. Doro's nomination comes after the elevation of Professor Natawe Goshue Yetwada, the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, who was elected National Chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress in July. Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, announced the nomination in a statement issued Tuesday. Born on January 23, 1969, in Kwali, Bassa, local government area of Plateau State, Doro brings more than 2 decades of experience spanning clinical practice, pharmaceutical management, strategic leadership, and community development. And to the National Assembly, following the recent strike action by the Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengassan, over its dispute with the Dangote refinery, the House of Representatives has passed a resolution to safeguard strategic private investment in the country from future industrial actions. The resolution was adopted after a motion jointly sponsored by Honorable Adodogoa and Honorable Abdulsamad Dasuki was presented on the floor of the House. In the motion, the lawmakers emphasized that the Dangote refinery is located within a free trade zone and such. The strike action allegedly violated provisions of the Nigeria Export Processing Zones Authority (NEBZA) Act. The act stipulated 10-year no-strike rule for investment operating within FTZS. The House expressed concern that a recent industrial action may have breached the NEBZA Act, and one of the potential consequences such disruptions will have on investor confidence and the country's economic outlook. The lawmakers further noted the financial losses incurred during the 3-day strike and called on the federal government to urgently intervene and ensure that such disputes are resolved without jeopardizing vital economic assets.
Concerned that actions by labor unions that disregard the legal protections conferred on free zones under NEBZA Act not only constitute a breach of law, but also create a hostile investment environment that may deter future local and foreign investors. Worried that if private investment of strategic national importance are continually subjected to unlawful disruptions by adversarial unionism, Nigeria risks not only the failure of key economic assets, but also the erosion of investor confidence necessary for national growth and economic development. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, The motion therefore resolves, the House therefore resolves to urge the federal ministries of Labor and Employment, Industrial, Trade and Investment, and the Ministry of Justice to jointly develop and implement a national framework or set of policies to safeguard private investments of strategic national importance from adversarial and unlawful union actions. 2, the House directs the Federal Ministry of Justice and NIBSA to ensure full enforcement and compliance with the provision of Section 18, Sub 5 of the Nigeria Export Processing Zones Act in all relevant free zone operations. Mr. Speaker, Honorable House, honorable members, the House mandates the Committee on Labor, Industry, and Justice to engage with relevant stakeholders, including labor unions and the private sectors, to develop a balanced regulatory framework that protects workers' rights while also preserving sanctity of strategic economic investments for Nigeria's economic development.
Earlier, the lawmaker representing Apa, the 2 federal constituency of Benue State in the House of Representatives, Honorable Jema Ojotu, has defected from the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, to the All Progressives Congress, APC. The Deputy Speaker, Benjamin Kalu, announced this on Tuesday while presiding over a plenary session. He read the lawmaker's defection letter on the floor of the Green Chamber, and according to the letter read on the floor, the Benue lawmaker linked his decision to leave the PDP on the perennial crisis involving the party. After the defection was announced, there was opposition in the lower chamber as the House Deputy Minority Leader, Ali Omedeki of the New Nigeria People's Party, called on the presiding officer to declare Ojotu's seat vacant. But his point of order was countered by the lawmaker from Kogi State, Ibrahim Halims. In his remarks, the Deputy Speaker welcomed Honorable Ojotu to the ruling party and assured him of the support of the party at all times. And in the upper chamber, the Senate has passed the Nigeria Mines Ranger Service Establishment Bill 2025 aimed at tackling illegal mining activities across the country as part of efforts to strengthen oversight in the mining sector. The passage of the bill followed the presentation of the report by Chairman, Senate Committee on Solid Minerals Development, Senator Ikong Samson. The proposed Mines Ranger Service will serve as a specialized enforcement agency tasked with securing mining sites and ensuring compliance with the nation's mining laws. The President of the Senate, Senator Gasolo Pabi, expressed assurance that the bill would help improve regulation and enforcement under the existing Mining Act. He stated that the bill was a timely intervention that will strengthen the country's regulatory framework and ensure that Nigeria's mineral resources are properly managed.
We look at the principles of this bill, which was sponsored by our colleague, very distinguished Senator Onao Mohammed. Consistent with our practice and procedure, we had a public hearing and a broad gamut of stakeholders were invited, and the committee took into considerations a gamut of inputs from the stakeholders. In the light of concerns that we have in this country on insecurity, we took the opinion that it was very helpful that this bill be considered and passed into law. We noted the concerns that were raised in particular by our royal fathers from the north, who all spoke in favor of this bill. The pith and substance of our work is that, as a recommendation, the Senate Committee on Solid Minerals, having considered the bill, we recommend that the Senate do consider and pass the Nigeria Mine Rangers Service Bill 2025 into law. And we do this with every sense of responsibility, taking cognizance of the fact that this bill will, in very great measure, help us to tackle the scourge of insecurity in this country.
Meanwhile, the Senate has confirmed the appointment of Dr. Aminu Yusuf as chairman of the National Population Commission, NPC, along with 2 other nominees of federal commissioners. The confirmation followed the presentation and consideration of the report by the Senate Committee on National Identity and National Population during plenary. Presenting the report today, Senator Victor May, representing Anambra Central Senatorial District, who chairs the committee, listed the nominees as Aminu Yusuf from Niger State as chairman, Chairman Haruna Kigbu from Nasarawa State, and Tunga Betara Bularafa from Yobe State as commissioners. The lawmaker said the nominees were screened by the committee and the committee did not receive any criminal complaints on any of the nominees. According to May, the committee was satisfied with the eligibility of the nominees. After that, the Senator representing Anambra North, Tony Nwoye, seconded the motion for the consideration of the report. And here in Osun State, the State House of Assembly today passed the Startup Bill 2025, Sports Commission Bill, Communal Clashes Management Bill, and Compulsory Treatment for Gunshot Victims Bill into law. The four bills were passed into law after scaling through third reading during a plenary session presided over by the Speaker Adewale Egbedun, who welcomed the lawmakers to the chamber following almost three-month recess, while presenting a report on the Sports Commission, Establishment Bill, and Executive Bill forwarded to the House by Governor Ademola Adeleke. Lawmaker representing Ife Central State Constituency Abiola Wuye says the bill seeks to establish Sports Commission and formulate policies that will aid sports development in the state. Lawmaker representing Obokun Constituency Adewumi Adeyemi also presented a report to the House on the Osun State Startup Bill 2025, noting it will, among other things, provide legal framework for the development of startups in the state. Earlier in his remark, Mr. Egbedun tasked the House on the need for swift assent to pending bills ahead of the presentation of the 2026 budget.
As provided in Section 103 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as altered, the State House of Assembly, headed by the Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Adewale Olumide Egbedun, committed the said bill to the House Committee on Youth, Sports and Special Needs for consideration and to forward the report to the House. The intent of this bill is to create a sports commission which will, among other things, implement the various programs of the Sports Commission.
The purpose of the bill is to provide a legal and institutional framework for the development of startups in Osun State, with a view to positioning the state startup ecosystem as the leading digital center in Nigeria. As directed by the Honorable Speaker, the House Committee held several meetings and invited relevant officials from the Ministry of Innovation, Science, Technology and Digital Economy, such as the Honorable Commissioner, the Permanent Secretary and other top officials, while the Deputy Clerk, Legislative Management, Mr. R.K. Sanusi, also assisted the committee in the consideration of the bill under reference.
I commend your unwavering commitment to the goals of this 8th Assembly and urge us to maintain this commendable momentum. The citizens of our state recognize the diligence of this Assembly, and we must continue to uphold the high standard we have set. It is important to note that there are bills awaiting our attention and deliberation, and as you are all aware, consideration of the year 2026 draft budget, which will be presented before this Honorable House in due course, will commence in no distant time. We therefore need to fast-track the consideration and passage of all the pending bills as early as possible.
In another development, there was tension in Ado-Ekiti, the state capital, after some suspected political thugs set ablaze the Secretariat of the African Democratic Congress ADC. The attack in the early hours of today reached the Secretariat at Bashiri area of Ado-Ekiti and destroyed several valuables, including plastic chairs, canopies, sound system, and office equipment. It was gathered that the burnt canopies and chairs had been rented for the inauguration of parties' executives across the world's local government and the state level, scheduled to hold later in the day. Several hours after the Secretariat was raised, the hoodlums regrouped in large numbers and stormed the venue, disrupting preparations and attacking party leaders and supporters. 15 minutes after the hoodlums fled the scene, The EDC National Secretary Rauf Arabeshola arrived at the venue amid tight security and proceeded with the inauguration of the new executives. Speaking with journalists shortly after the brief inauguration, the ex-minister condemned the attack, describing it as a shameful display of intolerance and a dangerous threat to democracy. When contacted, the State Police Command spokesman SP Sunday Abutu confirmed the incident, stating that the Commissioner of Police CP Joseph Eriyibu has directed a full-scale investigation in a bid to arrest the perpetrators and bring them to book. Borno State has recorded the highest number of voter online pre-registrations nationwide as of week 9, according to newly released data from the Independent National Electoral Commission. Out of a total of 8,003,196 Nigerians who completed the pre-registration process, Borno accounted for 826,130 entries, the highest figure recorded across all 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Osun State follows with 646,580 pre-registrations, while Lagos is next with 604,819, while Kebbi registered 581,135, slightly ahead of Kaduna, which recorded 510,490. Ogun is close behind with 510,062. At the lower end of the table, Enugu registered 25,541 voters, followed by Ondo with 17,618, Ebonyi with 13,979, Edo with 11,570, and Abia with 11,221, the lowest figure in the country. Also, INEC announced that a total of 1,710,450 voters have completed their CVL nationwide as of week 8, combining both online pre-registration 956,566 and physical registration, that is 753,884. In accordance with Section 9, Subsection 6 of the Electoral Act 2022, INEC confirmed that registration activities in Anambra State remain suspended until after the governorship election scheduled for November 8. And to the court, the Supreme Court has reserved judgment in a suit challenging the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State by President Bola Tinubu in March. A 7-man panel led by Justice Nyango Kuru adjourned after parties in the suit adopted their processes on Tuesday. The plaintiff in the suit are the Attorney General of 10 states, while the defendant in the suit is the federal government and the National Assembly. At the day's proceeding, the 5th plaintiff, Delta State, withdrew from the suit, which was now opposed by the counsel for the federal government, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN. While adopting his process, counsel to the plaintiffs, Eyitayo Jagere, SAN, noted that their case was not a denial of the president's power to proclaim a state of emergency, but to challenge the extent to which the proclamation can be made to affect the offices of the governor, deputy governor, and the State House of Assembly. In his argument and in response to the court's question if there was a threat in the process of the proclamation, counsel for the federal government and Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, stated that there was none, that the plaintiffs have not been able to prove any. And staying with the court, the ongoing terrorism trial of 2 suspected leaders of the Ansaru terrorist group, Mahmoud Mohammed Usman and Abubakar Abba, has been postponed till November 19. On Tuesday, Justice Emeka Nwita postponed the hearing earlier scheduled for the day, owing to the absence of the lawyer for the prosecution. When the case was called, Justice Nwita noted that the lawyer to the prosecution, Mohammed Abubakar, wrote a letter to the court apologizing for his inability to attend the court. This man said to be from Okene local government area, Kogi State, and Abba said to be from Daura local government area, Katsina State, have been prosecuted on a 32-count charge brought against them by the Department of State Services, DSIs. At the arraignment on September 11, Usman pleaded guilty to a count in which he was accused of involvement in illegal mining activities. Usman and Abba pleaded not guilty to the other 31 counts relating to terrorism allegations. Following Usman's guilty plea to count 10 of the 32-count charge, Justice Nwita convicted him on that count and sentenced him to 15 years imprisonment. In the meantime, The Federal High Court sitting in Abuja shifted the trial of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan on alleged cybercrime to November 24. The presiding judge, Justice Mohammed Umar, fixed Monday, October 20th, for the commencement of trial, but that was stalled due to the protests organized to demand the release of Nnamdi Kanu, the detained leader of the proscribed indigenous people Biafra IPOB. The matter was, however, fixed for November 24 when activities at the court resumed today. The judge added September 22 fixed Tuesday for the hearing after the trial was stalled owing to an objection raised by the defendant. The lawmaker was arraigned on June 30 on a 6-count charge. She was granted bail following the justice, which Justice Umar adjourned to September 22 for the commencement of trial. And elsewhere, civil rights activist and lawyer Dele Farotimi said the Nigerian state fears accountability and the rule of law more than it fears armed groups terrorizing citizens. His comment comes on the backdrop of a protest for the release of the leader of the indigenous people Biafra IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, from detention. The protest, led by former presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore, was held in Abuja on Monday. Speaking this morning, Farotimi said the Nigerian state has consistently demonstrated hostility towards citizens who peacefully demand their rights while showing tolerance to violent actors like bandits and terrorists. He noted that the NSAS protest in 2020 was a response to years of brutality by the now defunct Special Anti-Robbery Squad SARS, which it described as the brutal arm of the Nigerian government in enforcing impunity. He said rather than address citizens' grievances, the state always resorts to violence. His comments come as Sowore accused the security operatives of launching an unprovoked attack on peaceful protesters during Monday's protest.
It is easy to elicit the truth when you look at the objective realities. October 20, 2020, Nigerians were protesting peacefully, waving flags, singing national anthem. They were murdered in cold blood. That is the response of the Nigerian state to those demanding to be treated as citizens. The entire protest was end SARS. SARS was the brutal and it remains the brutal arm of the Nigerian government in enforcing impunity in Nigeria. But the state did not address this concern. Instead, it murdered those who were demanding to be treated as citizens. Every time Yele Sowore and his cohorts come out in to protest something or the other, you see the Nigerian police in full force, always ready to murder, to kill, to maim, every time Nigerians demand to be treated as citizens. But when you look at this way, the same Nigerian state treats bandits, quote and unquote, terrorists, Fulani militia, murdering Nigerians in the full glare of everyone, you see complicit silence by the state. So it's easy to say what the Nigerian state is scared of. The Nigerian state is scared of being subjected to the rule of law and being accountable to its victims. The only time you see the Nigerian army and police flex muscles is when people are demanding to be treated as citizens. Those who bear arms against the Nigerian state, who murder citizens in their beds, in their homes, on their farms, nothing ever happens to them. The Nigerian state is constantly talking about repentant terrorists. We have the most successful de-radicalization program in the entire wide world. We should be exporting it. But it is in Nigeria that those who presume to demand to be treated decently as human beings, governed and protected by law, are serially assaulted and murdered. Chinedu Agwu is there in prison in Owerri today.
Still to come, NELFund opens student loan portal for 2025-2026 academic session. We will bring you more on these when we return. Please stay with us.